Welcome to a special edition of the Growth Game, guys. We are so excited. Many of you on LinkedIn are going to watch our live, also our replay. But today we have a special guest appearance by two amazing individuals who are crushing it in the industry of addiction recovery. And so we're so thrilled to be here with leaders in the industry who really care about what they're doing and, more importantly, have put their passion to profits. Ty, how exciting are we to have them today with us?
We are super excited. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2026. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty glad 2025 is done.
Oh my gosh. Goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all we have to say about 2025, right, guys?
Thank you.
So excited for 2026. And, one of the things that we did leaving 2025 was we put a conference together. We decided that we were going to kick off 2026 with an opportunity for people to get themselves ready, put themselves in the mindset that they need for success, and really start building a plan to execute greatness in 2026. And I couldn't be more honored than to have two really profound individuals and professionals who've done an amazing job in their career share some of their wisdom with you guys as you put that plan together, as you start looking at your own execution strategy. And so with us today, we have Dr. Yesenia Almagar and then Andrew Ditz, who both run the SOHL. The session is called the SOHL Story, and they've done a great job of building this addiction recovery, a holistic support system for addiction, mental health, and behavior issues based on lived experience. And that's the most profound part. So why don't we get a little bit of your backstory, Dr. A and Andrew, and you tell us a little bit about how you guys just came together, how you found this beautiful story. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I guess I can start. My name is Dr. Almagar. I'm a general and addiction psychiatrist. I come from a small town in Texas called Far, Texas, very far away. I say I'm a Texican because I'm half Mexican and just happened to be born in Texas. I knew at a very early age what trauma was doing to my body, what the drugs around me in a border town, growing in a border town meant. So I knew I needed to do something. So I went through the whole med school path and all that. And eventually I met Andrew in New York City. We met in 3 different places with 3 different group of friends, which is not known for New York to ever, run into that. So when he told me what he was doing, recovery coaching, I said, what is that? I went to med school. Nobody talked to me about recovery coaching. And then I said, what? You go into people's lives and help them recover and get sober, and you leave for 30 days. I was like, that is the most caring thing that somebody can do for another person. Get out of your own life and go help somebody else. At the same time, that was like red flag avoidant. And at the same time, on my side, it was red flag, anxious attachment style. Because how will I let my man live with somebody else for 30 days straight? Now, some people call it jealousy. Some people call it crazy Latina. And then some other people call it basically having an anxious attachment disorder. So I knew we had to do something about it. I just didn't know what. So the more he told me about his stories about how coaching, the mental health coaching world, didn't have supervision. They didn't have any training. It just didn't really sit well with me. So when I proposed starting this business to Andrew, he said, that's kind of crazy, but I don't really know. You want to jump in here, Andrew?
You gave us just such a great overview, and I'm so excited for you all to come out and hear our talk on the 20th. And I'm so excited that you invited us and that you're doing this conference, because I do think coaches, we really need to understand what it's like to start a business. And nobody taught us what it was like to start a business. And I'm so grateful for Dr. Almagar, because I came from the world of doing coaching and interventions and companioning and living with people, and then making that jump into starting and launching a business was a whole other experience, and it was a whole other growth curve. And I really relied on her background as an entrepreneur. She had been a business owner prior to med school and prior to residency and prior to fellowship. So she was the one who is the reason why we started a business, and she guided me as we built our business together And we would not be here today 6 years in and not have a profitable, sustaining business, you know. And according to labor statistics, over 50% of businesses do fail by the 5th year. So we're very, very grateful to be here and still be profitable. And so excited to tell you our origin story, and to tell you how we have grown through each phase. But yeah, that's definitely a colorful picture of our brief little colorful picture of our history. And as you can tell from what she's said, there is so much of attachment theory in our story and in our culture and in our values and who we are and what we do. You know, our name is SOHL, and we took the word SOUL, soul, and we replaced the U with an H because in the belief in the human connection to heal the soul. And really, it was, you know, I do definitely suffer from avoidant attachment disorder. I have attachment trauma in my story. I went through my own treatment for addiction, for trauma, and that is what got me into this business, into addiction coaching, into mental health coaching. Dr. Alminger comes from the clinical side of things. And so really our scope is that we are two sides, one healing journey. We're both the clinical and the lived experience, and we bring that together for our clients. And when we met, you know, I was still, even at 10 years into my journey, you know, when we met, I was still on my own healing journey, and I was still struggling with that. You know, even though I was helping people, you know, you can, in the helping profession, I'm sure you guys know this as well as coaches, you can be there for other people, but still struggle to be there for yourself. And you can actually be incredibly effective at helping other people and still struggle to help yourself, you know? And so I was at that point in my life, and part of our origin story that you guys will hear on the talk on the 20th is how us coming together in our relationship was healing for us. And then us creating the business was healing on a whole other level. And so the business, the real value of it is connection. And we do that in all the work we do. All of our coaches, the fundamental basis and culture and value is building an actual therapeutic alliance, a connection with all the clients. And all of our ethics and boundaries and trainings is all about protecting and building that healthy alliance. And that's what we really believe is where the true therapy and true work is done. So there you have it,
Ty,
guys.
do you see what is such a big hope for many coaches who come into the industries? They're taking a passion, they're taking a skill, they're taking a life experience, and then they're saying to themselves, that's what lights me up in the morning. That's what really drives me, you know, and yet they go, how do I get to this place where you guys have achieved this, where you've taken a passion and a skill to actually produce revenue and profits and moving into a business that really is what I consider a lifelong journey, right? Some of your clients will come in and say, you know, I'm 55 years old and I'm only discovering the addiction, you know, recovery program that I need to be in, but yet it's a whole picture that you've provided. And so, Ty, I can't wait to see how they took this passion to profits, because this is where many coaches stop building their business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's great. I mean, your story, your origin story is the foundation that a lot of coaches, I mean, that's when somebody wakes up and he says, I'm going to be a coach, it's because they have an experience, right? Whether it's in corporate, whether it's, you know, with business, they have an experience that they want to be able to share with other people and scale. And taking that passion, as Charlene said, taking that passion and turning it into profits, it's not an easy thing, right? You know that you're good. I did a content shoot yesterday talking about expertise doesn't automatically translate into profits, right? You know what you're doing has results, it works, you have the expertise, you have the education, you know you can do it. How do you take that leap and get other people to see that same thing and then buy into you and then, you know, generate a business out of it? And that's where a lot of things fall down. And that's where we created this opportunity so people can learn from dynamic professionals like yourself and do it. Before we jump into the business side of things, I do want to touch on something that you said, which is this healing journey. And I want to make sure that people understand that it doesn't matter whether you're not in the addiction space. Everybody's going through this healing journey from a mental health capacity. And like we talked about when we first joined the call, what happened in 2025 for a lot of people was a rough year, right? And that takes a toll on your mental health, whether it took a toll on your employment, your business, your personal life, any of that stuff, all of that stuff is still relevant. And so I want people, as they come to hear your story, to understand they're not just going to learn about how did you take a passion and grow it into a business, but how do you continuously manage these mental health challenges that you face year over year as you go into the new year, because that's a lot of folks that are coming to us because they want to know how to do better, right? How do I move from where I was to where I want to be? And there is a mental health component. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit before we jump into the business side of things.
And we're definitely also going to talk about that more in our talk as well, because Dr. Almaguer had this passion that came out of her residency to start a 501c3 charity just to destigmatize and support doctors in residency getting mental health care and substance use care, because there were 3 suicides among doctors in her hospital during COVID. And it's like, if the people who are taking care of us can't get their own care, then where are we, as a society? And if we're not supporting them. And so, oftentimes doctors are their own worst patient. So we started a charity called Worst Patient to support doctors and destigmatize their own mental health care. So like, to your point, all people, even the people who are providing the care, who you think, we look up to them and we say, well, you're the one who has the medicine, you should be untouchable, but it's not necessarily the case. All of us at some level have to do our own care. And that's even ultimately, from like a business standpoint, part of the goal. And I would say one of the objectives for people who are coming to the talk on the 20th is for you guys to understand that really, to scale a business, you have to do your own individual work. And what we really want to differentiate between in the talk is growing and scaling. When you're growing, you're just replicating. But when you're scaling, you actually have to go through identity transformation. You have to change, because your business is a reflection of you. It's a manifestation of your internal state. And I'll tell you, that is the other aspect of our talk as well, is doing this as a team, her and I. And I could not have done this without her. I could not. It has just been so utterly difficult and painful, just like outside of addiction and mental illness and all that, to have a business, the amount of stress that you have to take on, you need people in your corner. You need a team. I mean, Steve Jobs himself said, like, you have a team of people behind you. Everybody has a team of people, he said, behind you, and so who's your team of people? If it's not your spouse, who's your business partner, who is that? Who are those people behind you? So we really want to your point, Ty, we want to dive into that and we want to talk about that.
And I would say that another big topic besides that one is how to work with your partner, right? I feel like a lot of us who start companies with our partners, it's a great, situation to have your partner next to you and to be able to run ideas, and to go to business dinners and put it as a tax write-off because we're doing an intervention or coaching or this, right? But at the same time, it could be detrimental if you don't really take care of your relationship and try to put boundaries in every step of the way. Going to 2025, Ty, like you were saying, 2025 was wild. I had my first baby. It was a crazy ride. So there were a lot of unknowns. House reconstruction, remodeling, all these things, living in an Airbnb while pregnant. So there were a lot of unknowns that really test your relationship with your partner, with your husband, with your best friend, and at the same time trying to run a business while keeping your baby alive. So you definitely have to do the work. I think that was like one of the main things when we started the business. I said, well, how can I keep him close? How can I make sure that my attachment is healed? So doing this business together has really allowed us to forget about the avoidant, forget about the anxious. Of course, it comes back every single day into your life, but how to learn how to work through that has been one of the main things that SOHL has allowed us to do. And hopefully we can teach you guys a little bit about how to do that with your partners.
What I love about you guys too is that it seems like you practice it and then you're able to like pass it on, right? So you guys are constantly iterating your process because you're living it, right? You're living the partnership, you're living the relationship, you're living the business and growing that. And so this is phenomenal. Like, this is amazing. You guys are, I think you are role models to a lot of people who are trying to do this and are not doing it well or don't have a roadmap to follow.
It's definitely like super difficult. I would say it's not easy. It's not a walk in the path, a walk in the path, or a path in the walk. Or sorry about that. My Spanish.
Walk in the path.
A walk in the park. I wanted to say it's not difficult. It's something that we need to work on every single day. Andrew comes from addiction. I'm an addiction psychiatrist. So we're always bumping heads, but it's a really beautiful thing that we're able to do this dance, because that way we can actually help a lot of individuals, and we do it with such a touch, such a special process that I feel like we should always provide to every single one of our clients, like if it was our family member.
Yeah. So let's touch a little bit on the business. One of the things that I was really like excited about when I met Andrew for the first time was your growth story, what you guys were able to do in a short period of time with your business. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is one thing to, be doing services. So I started, gosh, how many years ago? 15, 16 years ago, working as an independent contractor. And I worked for, I would say, 10 to 15 of the companies that are like ours out there privately. And in that short period of time that we started, we went from being subcontracted for other jobs to, then doing other services. So from doing coaching to doing interventions and case management to now having a national staff of over 300 coaches doing all kinds of jobs, from interventions to case management to 24/7 live-in contracts to hourly coaching to placements. And I would say that trajectory has really been both a technical and an emotional trajectory, right? It's been a technical trajectory in the aspect of like client acquisition. How do we pay for this? How do we find the right people? How do we motivate them? How do we sustain them? And then an emotional trajectory, and how do we relinquish control? Like, how do we do this in a way, like, because we know how we like to do things, and we've been successful because we do it in a very specific way, right? And we have our philosophy that we find that we do totally different than everybody else, all those other companies that I worked for. And that's what makes us different. But not everybody that works for us works in that way. And it takes time to build that synergy and that alignment. And so like that has been a whole other kind of process of like finding, sourcing, training, aligning, relinquishing control. And we're constantly in that emotional trajectory. And I would say so much of what we want to talk about is really kind of like that story. And then the added complexity of doing that between the two of us, who have very, very different brains, right? Like she's very left brain and I'm very right brain. Like her background is she's a doctor and my background is an artist. Like I have an MFA in the arts. And like that makes me very much of a people person, a salesperson, like creative, visionary, like write a lot of the documents. I build in that direction. And she's very much our CFO, math, numbers, organizational, Excel, all that. And like we could not do it without each other. So it's like we're almost kind of like one complete person, but at the same time, we also kind of butt heads, right? And there's a creative synergy to it, but sometimes we block each other as well. And so it's just, it's wild, guys. It's like wild over here, I have to say. And we can't wait to show you like what that looks like through a few interesting stories.
But that element of wild has produced something great. Again, 300 coaches, across the US, your practice is continuously growing. Like you figured out something in that dynamic that works for both of you, which I believe it, right? You're as a performance coach, I teach people, okay, what you're strong in, don't find somebody else who's strong in the same thing. Find somebody else who complements your weaknesses so that you are one complete project or team. And it sounds like you guys have done that with your left and your right brain. And I think one of the things that you've just mentioned in that bit harkens back to what you said earlier about scaling, the difference with growth and scale, right? Because you're changing your identities. Now you're going from operator to owner as you scale the business, and you're changing some of like what those responsibilities are, what they look like, how people engage with you. And so again, things that people want to hear as they're getting into this business, both for the first time and growing their business to a point where they want to be able to scale. And nobody, as you said earlier, nobody tells you what to expect. Nobody
No.
tells you how to do it. But hearing from you guys what you've gone through starts preparing people at an earlier stage of what to look forward to.
Yeah, and I would love people to really take away from the conversation as we kind of come here to at this point in the conversation is like, what kind of model do you want to fall into when you start, right? And this is something that Dr. Almager and I really are passionate about because both of our fathers are entrepreneurs and business owners, right? And they stayed inside a certain model in their whole career. And we are even at a certain point now, coming into year 6, we're even expanding outside of the model that we're in, and we're having to shift the way in which we've had to simplify our services. We've had to raise our floor. Strategy, according to, like, I can't remember the Harvard business teacher, but strategy is everything you say no to, right? So we're saying no to different things at this point in our career so that we can change and shift our focus. So I would really love people at the beginning of starting their business or even wherever they are in their business to understand, what model do I want? Where am I comfortable being at? How do I want to work? Who do I want to work with? And then we also definitely have all kinds of resources that we can provide aside from the interesting stories. So enough from me, Dr. A. What do you want to say?
And I would say that even if you know your model or the model that you want to do as of today, it can shift. There's certain life circumstances that come along, like a baby. And back in the day, I wanted to do interventions 24/7. I love going into people's homes and doing the whole intervention. And now I'm just wanting to really hire people that I can really connect with, that I can trust, and scale the business so I can be more time with the family, so I can be more time with my patients because I also have a private practice. So it's definitely something that you need to analyze your infrastructure of where are you at right now, where do you want to go, and what are the steps needed to get there.
Yeah. Back to
And
that
also, Ty, I keep hearing, the idea behind the scale and growth strategy more is about, adapting to what the market is needing as well, right? There's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of compliance, there's a lot of rules to follow, especially in the type of industry that you guys are in. So I'm sure that also plays into how do you adapt to that ever so much changing landscape as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, I'm even more pumped and excited after today's call, after this session of, what you guys are going to produce on the 20th. What are you guys going to share with everyone? Super honored again and grateful that you guys said yes to us and that you're going to show up and inspire people as we kick off this journey to wellness 3-day event. So any last minute thoughts before we sign off?
I would say that this training is basically for people who want to learn more about their attachment, to learn about their connection, how you can use your connection or the opposite of that to really build your system, and how to do some healing around your identity, around your partner, around your relationship, and be a leader to really build a successful business.
My last thoughts, that's beautifully said. My last thoughts would be, business is way more creative than you ever imagined. And there's way more growth on a multi-dimensional plane, spiritual, external, interpersonal, than you ever imagined. That is my story. That is my experience. And we have so much to show you in that vein.
What's phenomenal is even in that last closing bit there, you saw the left brain and the right brain.
Yes, totally. We saw it firsthand. We're testimonies in the working
you
here.
guys on that. So that was phenomenal. Well, listen, again, Dr. A, Andrew, thank you guys for saying yes. Thank you for offering your time this morning. And we look forward to seeing you on January 20th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll send out the link, register at www.coachcon.global, and we will see you then. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your weekend. Happy New Year.
We'll see you guys then. Thank you. Happy New Year. See you then. Take care.